क्या है 70 म्यूजिशियन बैठे हुए हैं ना स्टेज पे. तो उसमें से खुल के आवाज उसका रेजोनेंस आना चाहिए.
थोड़ा सा उसका थाप किनारे में फर्क सुनाई दे रहा है.
हाँ, ये अलग है और
हाँ, उसको मैं बैलेंस करता हूँ.
इसका जो ब्राइट आस मिल रहा है ना, वो चाहिए. क्या करोगे? अच्छा, चश्मा लगाना पड़ता है. सुर सुनने के लिए चश्मा लगाना पड़ता है. चलो, वेरी गुड, एक्सेलेंट.
When you have a genius at work, and it's not a string instrument, but a percussive instrument, I think a percussive instrument can work with the orchestra. String instruments have melodies which are with complexity, not easily mixed with the culture and the training of a Western orchestra. I think that the tabla can be quite thrilling. And you know, he is such a genius that he once played me the first movement of the Mozart G minor on the thing, and I could actually hear the tune. Tararam, 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 pam. You know, you could hear him playing a tune.
One thing that you have to do, and this is something that Indian musicians Indian tabla players may not be exercising a lot of, is listen. Okay? You have to do that in this atmosphere. You have to be able to be, in some ways, unselfish.
The first thing we think of in Western music is the acoustic, because we dare not amplify ourselves. It's like an opera singer singing on a mic. It's just, you don't do it. You are a live, vibrating sound that should not be adulterated by anything else, much less a microphone and a speaker. There was never any question that this was an ambient, very beautifully constructed way to project the sound.
So they are holding these all the way up. But when they get to beat 13, I want hits while the orchestra is holding pa 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 pa. I want that.
We were sitting there in Los Angeles in July, and he said to me, "What are we going to do with this concerto?" Everybody's come and tried to give me advice. They say, I have to have a melody, and then I have to develop that melody, and then I have to do this, and I have to do that. And he says, I don't see it that way. The tabla is not a melodic instrument. It is defined by its pulse, and its color, and its character, and the timbre of the sound that people are going to get. So that's the piece I want to write.
Peshkar for me is the one aspect of tabla which allows a tabla player an immense amount of freedom to be able to express himself or herself. So when I'm looking at say a composition and I'm saying di kridinda da dinna da tid da tid da tinna da da tinna da. So I have created a triangle. Now I'm going to work with that triangle, and I'm going to put little things in it, like, okay, it's a tile, but it has, in the tile there is a little design. So di kridinna da dinna da tid da tinna da tinna da krida tid da back tirikite takatrikatina kinna ta tinna. So I'm creating little inscriptions in there. Din da dinna, the swaying of the trees. The bird flying away, stuff like that. So visually I think about these things. So when I'm teaching the Peshkar idea to people who want to learn, I describe it in this manner.
The rhythms that he's given us, the rhythms that we have to play with him, whether it's the fives and the sevens, or whether it's the threes, or whether it's within the bar line of the four, whether it's the structure of the 16, we have to follow that as if we were all tabla players together, 95 tabla players together. Now what happens with that, which I think is superbly interesting, is that we are not he and us. We are interchangeable in that process. If he's doing a specific rhythm, he's given it to the bassoons, or to the cellos, or to the clarinets, or to the brass. And all those punctuations and those rhythms, very hard to do. But we must do them exactly like him, as if we were soloists. And that I find very interesting. The orchestra is one instrument, he is one instrument, and together we're one instrument, and together we're all soloists. The maestro, let's say he was not the soloist and he was just the composer. We would have a natural deference to him being in the room, to be able to ask, is this what you intended? Is this okay if I do this? These conversant things are the most exciting part of music making, the most exciting part of live music making with the people present. Now you add to that the fact that the composer is joined in the soloist, and our reverence level has just shot up. Okay, got it. You've taken out 1/16 and then it's 3 sets of 5. It's simple.
Yeah, it's very simple. We still need to work on that transition before we get to 105 tempo. It may be the way it's written.
No, it's not the way it's written. I just trying to do
Oh,
now.
I see. So,
what is actually not so nice for us, we are really framed in boxes in the sense that we have bars. We have those lines that helps us to understand where we are, where we go. We don't play, of course we play with the ear, the ear is very important, but it is not as important as it is in the Indian music. I can see it from Mr. Hussain. He's going all the time, in his mind there's this, the rags, there's these things that go on and on and on, and then it turns into the next tempo. It goes so fluently, it's so beautifully, and for us that is not, at least for myself, I mean, it's something that I feel it inside. I think I have it, but I never knew that I had it, to feel this kind of inner rhythm going in this way.
So come out of the bar line. 602. Yes, but it needs to be shorter. Now that you know where you're playing it, it's too loud and too aggravated. Just. All right.
It should be, it's going to be a little faster.
It's going to be a little faster. Yeah. You want to try it a little faster?
Yeah.
Yeah? Same place.
Yeah. Bravo.
We are straitjacketed by the bar lines. He's grooving away. And we have to like put it into a bar line.
One of the things that Indian music does is that it has a very smooth, gradual rise in tempo. Now with 70 odd musicians playing, it's very difficult to get them to together rise in that way. So there are certain syncopations that I've worked into the piece where what we call in Indian rhythmic lingo, didi. Didi is actually an Indian rhythmic word for ded, 1.5. So didi. So having created an element where the 1 is already there as the bass, and then certain part of the orchestra, like if the cellos are holding the 1, suddenly the violas and the second violins are a half a step up. So if these guys are at 4, those guys are at 6. But eventually the ones which are at 4 will ascend in a smooth manner through an interaction with me, then establish a new floor of 6. One thing that needs to be established in the first handshake of a relationship is, especially with a rhythm instrument and a melodic instrument, is a tonal contact. Okay, so which means sa. Tabla has that. It has that. So if you're playing a song in E minor, you can bring an E tabla and the pitch is already established. So it is now in the fold. Now, technically speaking, the technique of the tabla is such that there is no rhythmic pattern in the world that it cannot execute, whether it's a Latin pattern or a rap or a hip hop or a jazz swing or bebop, whatever. Therefore, the tabla would be the instrument of choice when you're talking about being able to have instruments of one genre of music interacting with the other.
There is huge freedom for a solo oboe, solo flute, solo clarinet, solo violin. It will be very difficult to convey the freedom, because when they come to play it, they'll play it exactly as written.
And Mr. Hussain said to me, Adelina, have you ever heard an Indian violinist playing, an Indian violin player? And I said, well, sir, the only violinist that I know that has played from my world, that has played actually with the sitar, is with Ravi Shankar, it was Yehudi Menuhin. And I know that he was one of the first ones, in a way, trying to put these two worlds together. And I said, so that's the only one that I know, but he's really not Indian. And then Mr. Hussain sang for me how he had in his mind this line, which I just played. So that's the first version that I played was the version how I thought it was. Then after Mr. Hussain sang it, and I will try, I cannot promise, but I will try. Our playing, as we know it now in the Western world, it didn't used to be like it is now. It used to be different. In our world, for example, if you take, for example, Mozart. Mozart wrote 5 beautiful violin concerti. And in this concerti, there is a moment when the soloist plays by itself. And in that moment, that's called the cadenza. And that's a moment when you can improvise. In the times then when Mozart wrote it, the violinists used to improvise. Now we don't anymore. We have a piece of music and then we just learn that.
We must notate it because it is the Bible and we are priests of music. We can't, next time the candles are lit and the congregation is there, wing it with whatever we want. We have to intone the verses of the Bible. So that stricture, which is our great vision of the whole plate, is also our straitjacket.
When we were doing the triple concerto in Detroit, Leonard Slatkin was the conductor, and I was playing with Edgar and Bela and me and the orchestra, and then in the middle of it, and it was more pronounced because both Bela and Edgar were so close to me that the pitches were more obviously out of tune. So I had to, in the middle of it, do a little tuning, and Leonard looked like this. What are you doing? This is not in the charts. Bar number 82 does not say that tabla has to be tuned. But I had to do it. So
I was aware of the great tradition you have in your music culture, but I didn't know that you had a symphony orchestra. So it was really pure curiosity to go and listen to them. And they were performing already at that time with Zakir Hussain. And I was blown away.
Misha said, I would like to invite the orchestra to Switzerland for the Migros concerts. I said, well, we'd love to come. But he said, you know, Here we have the best orchestras in the world. Everybody, the Berlin, the Vienna, the this and that, they all play the repertoire. Will you play something a bit unique and a bit Indian for our audience? So we thought, and he said, something different. So then the story of the tabla concerto sort of germinated.
Where music and people are, there's always this urge to try out things, especially in music, because if we can't try out things in music, where can we try them out? It doesn't hurt and it doesn't kill people in general. So I think, yes, there are such things, and they're exciting because the classical music can only survive, or music in general, if it is a living organism, if it changes, if the interpretation changes, if there are new ideas coming to it. And we live in the 21st century, and we forget this from time to time. I mean, we play music of the 20th century and we say this is modern music, but we have moved.
Two traditions are meeting. The idea is to find a way to have them be sympathetic to each other and coexist.
Where we see the space between notes, whether it's a harmonic space or a rhythmic space, a musician gets excited about that, whether they are Western trained or Eastern trained.
Doing this kind of music for us now, playing the Peshkar, it is very interesting because we get out of the meter and then we should come back to our roots, how it used to be. We used to be much more creative. If you take Bach, Bach has written the Goldberg variations. There is not the embellishments, they are not written there because people used to do them themselves at the time. It was just normal that you just did them. And suddenly we came into a world, we developed into a world where everything is written, it's ready for you, and that's what you do. And somehow our creativity stopped. You know, so this is what I find very interesting doing a piece like this now. So you can be free.
I heard people after the concert saying, at last something new, and it's so great and it's so amazing and it's a new world for us, and the response of the public was fantastic. Either you stay on the shore or you dive in. And in this case, I mean, thanks to all the musicians, the public was taken into the water, not drowned, but taken into the water. And I think this is extremely important. So they were involved. And they loved it, because actually this is the aim of music, to involve people and to bring them some joy.